This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. I am Shekhar Gupta, and my guest today is somebody who's been described as ageless, the youngest man in Indian cinema, but certainly the youngest friend that I have. Mr. Anand, Dev Saab, welcome to Walk the Talk.
You have to switch places. You start directing and I'll start writing in the editorial.
Well, that's the problem dealing with you.
Okay.
You could threaten
Great being with you, great being interviewed by you. Yes.
anybody. You pack so much creative punch, isn't it?
I think so. I think motion picture making is one of the most creative things. You get hold of an idea, you start developing it, you start elaborating on it, you start doing a screenplay, then you start searching in the world, all over the world, looking for the cast, either the stars or the newcomers, then you start looking for the music director, and then the songs, and then you start picturizing. And then you take the world along with you, and the world passes its judgment in 1 second, good, bad or indifferent, but that should not deter you. Because if a film is good, they'll throw bouquets. If the film is not liked by them, doesn't matter. Proceed further, do something else.
There's the other thing about cinema is,
Yeah.
it goes away, the glory goes away very fast. Your glory goes away, your attractiveness
Because
goes away.
present fades away.
Creativity goes away.
No, but-
so how does someone like you manage to keep it going for 6 decades?
Because
Not
I
more.
think the birth of a new idea is like a new tomorrow. Past is gone by, you got to forget it.
Right.
Past fades away, you can't hang on to the past. When you hang on to the past, it's only the historians who do it, who write about it. When you're creative, you're writing about life, you're writing about incidents, you're writing about characters, you're writing about certain themes that charge you, that excite you as motion pictures. So you're in the eternal process of creating all the time. And this eternal process of creating is the excitement. And that excitement is what you live for, and you're alive all the time. You're never dead.
Dev Saab, you came from, you've now romanced 4 generations of Indian women. You've dealt with 4 generations of Indian
Yes.
film personalities
I think it's a great feeling.
in various
I
trades.
know my country inside out. I have seen the era of the late 40s as a star, of the 50s, of the 60s, of the 70s, of the 80s, of the 90s, and into the 21st century, and I think it's a fantastic feeling. And I'm with the times all the time.
But your glory years were 60s and 70s.
Yeah, glory is all the time, as long as it's functioning. Who knows, tomorrow may make something which people might say, my God, this is the most outstanding thing that's ever been done. We are at it all the time.
But tell me, the high point according to you in your life and career, was it,
I
which
think
film was
that
it?
the guide.
Guide.
Because the guide was done as a collaboration deal between me and the late Pearl Buck, who was
Pearl Buck, the writer.
the Nobel laureate who wrote The Good Earth. And she was a great personality those days, and it was shot in English. And that took me to Hollywood, it took me to America.
But that's not something that's very well known, that Guide was first shot in English.
Because it didn't do well. But we had to change the English guide to suit the temperament and the concept and the Sanskriti of the Indian audiences. It had to be changed. And
But change means you changed Ark and Narayan story?
We had sought the permission. He had allowed us.
I see.
If he had done the same book in Hindi, it would have flopped. Because the adultery angle was revolutionary, and people were scared.
Adultery means a married Wahida Rahman falling in
A
love with
married
this guide
woman falling in love
who was
with a
partly
guy.
good for nothing.
It seduces her, takes her away from the man who's impotent. So this angle was, people said, the information broadcasting minister said, look, there are a lot of complaints, the picture cannot be passed. I said, why not? Pandit Nehru gave the Sahitya Academy Award to the book. So we changed the Hindi guide with the result.
And the INB minister said the movie may not be passed because of adultery.
He-
Who was the minister at that time?
I think Mr. Satyanarayan Sinha or somebody like him.
I see.
And he said, Dev Saab, what shall we do? I said, do not know. This is a book which has been acclaimed, and we have justified the angle. It's up to you. Why shouldn't the audience see what they should see? What are you hiding? There's nothing to hide in a motion picture. The everyday living is what is shown in the
And
movies.
so what did you change in the script finally?
The whole movie was changed. It was reshot right from the scratch. I think the whole concept, the justification of the angle of this man falling in love with a married woman, and why he did it, and how he did it, and he should have done the right thing. This is what the audience felt.
So
His spiritual, he goes to spiritual heights in the end, which is very difficult for the audience to digest. Our picture was not being sold. People said it's going to be a flop because having a romantic image, he suddenly becomes a sadhu and he dies in the end.
And ends up in this village which is hit by drought.
Yes.
But let me go back to the adultery angle. What did you change? Did you do something to particularly justify adultery for
If you see the film,
Wahida Rahman?
if you see the film,
Right.
people were happy. This is what the whole screenplay of the Hindi version was. And I think this is a great screenplay my brother did, Vijay Anand. He did a grand job. It was one of the most challenging things to do.
So how did you create the justification for her?
No, I think it's the way you develop the screenplay. You lead the audience on to a certain way of thought that you wanted them to think, and that's what the screenplay is all about. You can justify anything. You commit a murder, and you want to justify it, you start doing your scenes accordingly. You can always do it.
And this guide meanwhile becomes greedy and then goes to jail and in the end turns to spirituality.
And a negative character.
And a negative character.
And I've done a lot of negative characters.
Right.
And people have always said, why the hell are you doing negative characters? That's
Right.
Negative characters are much more interesting than goody heroes. Because they give you a lot of scope for performances. After you're only performing, it doesn't mean that you become a villain.
And you landed up in a village which was actually drought hit.
And we shot it in Limdi, we shot it in Rajasthan, we shot it all over. And it was one of the most satisfying experience, very gratifying experiences. Yeah.
And I believe in
they
the
gambled with it.
original, as guide sits there on a fast unto death, waiting for rains. In the original book, rains don't come, but in the movie,
But he
rains come.
dies.
He dies.
He
a failure.
He dies a failure. He says, the sky, I can see the rains coming, the rains are coming, and the rains are coming. And the camera goes to skies and skies blue, satire. But in the Hindi version, it's the faith. He says, if these people have faith in me, then I think I have to rise to the occasion. And he's a conflict inside him between the good and the evil.
Right.
And it so happens he dies as a human being, but as he
Right.
dies, the rains fall and people are jumping with joy. It's a great ending. Great ending.
And I believe when you went to the village, this actually was a drought hit village, and your
Yes.
crowds were for real.
Yes. Because we went to Limdi, and people in hundreds and thousands would come from miles and miles and miles away in trucks, on bicycles, on motor cars.
Believing that a real sadhu
tramping
had
all
come.
the way, touching my feet, thinking that he's a real sadhu. This is India. India is a hell of an emotional country. It's so easy to be a leader in this country because people are emotional, they're sentimental, and there's a peculiar spirituality among our people in this country.
And this was a village. This was a village in Gujarat.
In Gujarat, Limdi. On the bed of the river called Baramati. It's not Baramati.
Sabarmati.
Sabarmati, and this is where Gandhi's fast used to take
Right,
place,
right.
if you remember.
It was dry.
It was dry, very dry, and we used to be sitting squatting on charpoys on the bed of the river, and there were thousands and thousands of people congregating every day to have a darshan of this man who was just an actor who was performing, but thought I was a real Swami, but that gave me an image.
But I believe it's from guide that you picked up what you think is the guiding principle of your life.
I think it's great because if that principle belongs to people when they start maturing, it's something which
And there's what is the
sustains
principle?
them. I don't very often remember my lines, but I think he said something like this. He said,
And this is when he's dying.
when there is a conflict between the good and the evil, and before he dies, and he says, जिंदगी ये ख्याल है जैसे कि मौत ये ख्याल है. Very nice. It's a thought. जिंदगी ये ख्याल है जैसे कि मौत ये ख्याल है. ना सुख है, ना दुख है, ना दीन है, ना दुनिया, ना इंसान, ना भगवान, सिर्फ मैं. So the supremacy of the self within you is your God. This is what Gita says. This is what the Hindu philosophy says. This is what spiritual is all about. And I think
And
at this stage of my life, I'm immune to sorrows. I'm immune to my great moments of joy.